We've all been through craziness. And I mean, as much as I learned from 2020, I'm ready for 2020 to straight go to hell and bring on 2021. If we continuously use the prism of red or blue to justify our actions, our inactions, our natural bias, or our own opinions, instead of using the premise of right or wrong, we are all screwed. All right, well, welcome to That Art Never podcast, all things entrepreneurship. People just take life and kick it square, and they ask my special guest, Brad Epstein with Couryard Ink, my co-host, Mrs. Brittany Rexius.
Hey.
That's her calling card. She does it every time. She just won't stop doing it. So you and I go back 11 years since I started.
Yeah.
Much, when did you start Couryard Ink?
2008. To try to make a long story short, I was finishing up college. I had a class in entrepreneurship, and I was just trying to get the grade and graduate. And long story short, for my project for the class, I printed some T-shirts and turned that into my project. And kind of one thing then led to another. I guess through doing that, I saw that there's an opportunity there. I had a buddy at the time who was a youth pastor at a church in Lincoln, and he kind of put the idea in my head and is like, hey, you know, we do all these shirts for the ski trip and the summer camp and this and that. Like, if you end up, you know, actually doing this, like, let me know and you can be our guy. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like, there's a why not? Yeah. I see a little opportunity there to make money. But I really never had any idea or thought in my head like that this is going to be my career. This is how I'm going to feed my family one day. This is like going to be what I do. Like I never thought ahead like that, which I think in hindsight, I really wish I would have, because I think as a young entrepreneur, when you're starting out or really at any stage in the process, like you should be thinking ahead. What do I want this to look like in 5 years? What do I want this to look like in 10 years? Because otherwise, you know, without a roadmap, how are you going to get there?
Exactly.
So I think it was a culmination of things, like all at the time. It was also 2008, if you remember. That's when the economy crashed. So, I mean, I'm graduating college at that time. And really the only job, like I waited tables and bartended like all through college. And then around that time, I couldn't even get those jobs anymore because there was all the qualified people who were working good 9 to 5 jobs were getting laid off and they were taking those jobs. So like at the time, there was just like, nothing. The people who I was graduating college with were all getting jobs in like entry level jobs at TD Ameritrade, and me being like kind of stubborn young guy, I was like, that's not for me. I don't want to work for the man. I want to try to blaze my own trail, which maybe you know. So I think it was part of you know, I saw opportunity there, and I was probably like crazy enough and stubborn enough to be like, yeah, this is what I want to try to do. So I got like a starter press and set up shop in my buddy's basement, and one thing led to another. You know, one job leads to another, and I think in business, oftentimes, you know, word of mouth is probably the greatest networking way to build your following or your network or whatever. So it was like, you know, did a job for one person, they liked it, they told somebody, and then also I think in this industry, it's lots and lots of reorders. Repeat business is like king. Like we do get new orders, but I mean, any given time, if you go in our shop and look at the production schedule, it's I bet 80% of repeat orders in some way or another, either a repeat order or a repeat customer. So I think it's super important to...
That's the lifeblood. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, long story short, that's kind of just how I fell into it and got going. And then, you know, one thing got out of my buddy's basement, things were kind of picking up, and I'm like, all right, I think I need to have like an actual spot now. So, you know, got out of there, set up shop on Saddle Creek Road. And
remember that spot.
And it was just kind of one thing led to another. And before you know it, it was like, here we are. And it just kind of got going that way and hit the ground running. And
I opened in 2010 and then I made the mistake. I didn't know shit. I didn't know anybody. I moved back down here. It was 08, 09 housing crash, lost my ass. Hated my job. I worked in politics with the chemical industry. I actually worked in pandemic outbreaks. And I was just ate my soul. I'm like, and I just realized I hated everybody. So in politics, like equally, universal hatred over there. And I was like, and this is my business plan in college. But I have money, and it takes a lot of capital to start a nutrition store. And then I finally said, well, if I'm already broke and miserable, I might as well be broke and happy. And I kind of had a plan, but I didn't really have like a real plan. I just want enough money that I can eat. Was kind of the point. I was so broke that I was like, I'm gonna throw everything on the wall. I'll trust me to do it, kind of thing. And so I had to get my first T-shirts made. My buddy's, you know, he's a tech guy for Yahoo at the time. Derek.
Shay.
No, it was this day. So Derek did my design. Went to his other shop, got totally screwed. And so I finally have like 2 or 3 employees.
Yeah.
Shane Yeager being my business partner, Travis, who's worked for me for 11 years, and Shay Slater.
Yep.
It's the greatest human being on the planet. Shay, it was the team. It was the dream team. And Shay's like, hey, I'm playing flag football. He goes, and your T-shirts suck. And this guy made our shirts. Brad, you got to meet Brad. He's the man. He's the shit. He goes, I'm like, all right, well, what I got to lose? He goes, you need some new swag. And so I met you. Yep. Went down to the shop on Saddlebrook, and you had this whole thing, and you're phenomenal at customer service, like straight up. Like for somebody who's been in sales since 2003, actually 1999, I've been in nutrition sales or some sort of sales. Yep. Customer service when you see it. I was like, Steve's good shit. Shirts were awesome, price was great, cool. And I'm such a loyalty guy. And I think most small business guys are. That I can't tell you how many, and she can, because I get so many damn messages with stores in 10 states now that people are like, hey, I've got a side print. I go, I'm sorry, man. Best of luck to you. I got a guy.
Yep.
And so for years, there's guys like, the guys on the supplement owners group, like I get this guy named Ryan who does shirts. And I go, I'm sorry, who's this guy? I'm like, it's Brad. It's my guy, Brad. Like, I'm not going. Like, it's just, you've done such a phenomenal job for us and always taking care of us. Like, you've earned my business for life. Like, so much so it was a couple of years ago, even 3 years ago, Lexi.
Yeah.
That our oldest daughter kind of interned with, basically we worked in your front office, and that's a testament of how we feel about you because, with your kids are still young, but she's our oldest, and like you worried like their first job outside, like the house, you're like, who's going to be around them? Like, next thing you know, they're going to be doing drugs or, you don't know. And I was like such at ease because I'm like, Brad's a great guy and, you'll love it. She had fun. So.
It was great when, it was great when she worked with us. And then that's kind of brings to like a good transition point because I think as an entrepreneur, you go from at the start, you're just grinding, you're gung-ho, you got, you're ready to take on the world, and that's okay, that's awesome. And then a couple of years go by and it's like you got more business now, like things have changed a little bit. And I think that was a pitfall I ran into was as like business grew, I didn't really know how to have my system grow along with the business or have system and processes in place to be able to facilitate that growth. And I think at a certain point, it's like, is your business running you or are you running your business? And it's hard. I mean, there's a fine line there because you really want, like, to start off, you're super hands-on, you're doing everything, you're wearing 100 different hats. But as the business grows, you gotta, now again, there's really not a one-size-fits-all approach here, but everyone's different. Every person's different. Every business is different. Your background's different. Your financial situation's different. So, you tailor it for yourself. But like, I feel like at a certain point, if you're not able to like scale it or remove yourself from it a little bit, like you're going to go nuts.
Well, that's just it. I made the mistake where I'm very hands-on. I like, it's the face, the family business. And so I was ready for the growth, and I let my brain get ahead of myself or my ambition. It's about 2016, 2017. And we're like, okay, we're growing, we're the scale. I need to put some people in places. I need to not be in the shop. I need to be doing this CEO shit. The kind of corporate crap that I hated because I was working for the man before. And all of a sudden I became the man. I'm like, this sucks. Yeah. And I got so remiss that we actually went down. Quality went down. Yeah. It wasn't me. I didn't have the same impact on the business. And it cost us a lot of money. Yep. And then this is like the last couple of years, I'm like, no, I'm going to get back in. Like, I'm going to pick and choose what I like to do. Yeah. I like being in the shop 2 days a week. One day, but 2 days a week. Like, I like to still deal with customers. That's my favorite part. Yeah. And then, okay, I like doing this, but I hate doing that shit. And and she was good with that, but she came from a bigger company previously about standing up SOP, standard operating procedures, quality control, training, and that kind of stuff. And the other part was with employees because we're very empathetic. And compassionate. I hate firing people, man. Like in the worst way, because every employee is still a customer. The way I look at it. But I told her like, okay, we have to here's the set rules. Like everyone knows what they are. They know the consequences. It's so hard for me. I mean, it's terribly hard for me. I mean, I had to fire one of my little brothers at one point in time. That was rough, man. But it was one of those, and you came in a couple weeks ago and we were talking about, and part of that transition time is like figuring out how not to get burnt out. And you had a very good take on that.
Yeah. No, I got burnt out. I think there was a period where it was like business got so busy, but we hadn't done anything to like, well, we were still operating the same way we were in 2009, and it's like 2015, and things have changed. And I think you just got to find a way to adapt and grow and evolve And like you said, I think find the things that you love doing, that you like doing, that you're good at, and the things that maybe you don't like doing so much, or maybe even you like doing it, but maybe it's not in your business best interest for you to be spending your time doing that during the day, you know. And there's a really good book that talks about this, and it's the E-Myth Manager and the E-Myth Revisited, and the whole concept of it. And honestly, I wish I had been put onto this idea like much earlier in my entrepreneurial journey, because I just kind of like, this was a new idea for me as of just like a couple years ago, the idea of not working in your business, but on your business. And as the owner, if you're able to work on your business rather than in it, because like when you're in it, you can't really see what's going on from a bird's eye view when you're stuck in that hamster wheel. Yeah. And every single day, there's hundreds of different tasks to be done. In my case, whether that's answering an email, answering the phone, making a mock-up, sending the proof, sending the quote, just any customer service sort of questions that may come up that need attention. You know, and yes, I can do all those things, but is my business going to grow and evolve if I'm doing those things every day? Is there perhaps a way I could create a system and a process and train a team member to do those things? Yeah. And it definitely takes, I think there's like when you start, there's like a, you're taking on this challenge and it's a, it's a risk, I guess. You're taking that initial risk when you started, like, I'm all in on this. This is what I'm going to do. But I think then a few years later, and that's different for everyone, but there's another risk you got to take when it's like, all right, I've now got the sales up to a decent enough level. Like now I need to make systems and processes and have those SOPs and then trust that I can hire good team members to join the team and that I can create a good environment for them to work in and make their job clear and concise, and the expectations like this is the job, this is what you're expected. And it sounds easy, but it's very hard. And also in there, I think the risk there that you take is you got to let go. Yes. Like you got to let go. And like for me, it's almost like I need to like get myself out of the shop and just let my guys do their thing and trust that they're going to do it. Cause I don't want to be breathing down their necks. Yep. Yeah. I wouldn't want a boss like that. I want them to know that I trust them to get the job done and that, well, they have all the tools that they need. Yep. I feel like your role almost changes from being that player to now you're the coach and you got to set your team up for success.
And, and then that's a contractor a couple of years ago I hired to do some work. And he goes, hey, do you like people breathing over your neck when you're doing your job? I said, well, no. He goes, I don't either. Because you hired me to do it. I'm a pro. Let me do my job. I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. I'm still that. Because I don't. If I want to do the fucking plumbing, I'd do it. But I don't. I'm not going to watch you plunge the toilet or fix the line. Like, you're a pro. Do your shit. And that's why everybody works with us kind of likes this, because I don't. I like everyone's individual, their own uniqueness they bring to the game. Yeah. But and that was the thing that was just trying to find how so like Shane and I both left the stores in, was that 2016? 2016. It was August of 2016. We decided, okay, Shane, we're going to open a warehouse, and I'm going to do the CEO thing full time. Like that's what we're going to do. We've grown to multiple states, and I need to be able to help all of them at the same time because they need me. I can't be at the 120th center store. At that point, was grossing just record-breaking shit. And we had some good guys come in. Nothing wrong. They all did that, but it wasn't the same. Sales did drop. We were helping, and we're trying to figure out. I'm like, okay, well, how do I multiply myself? How do I not? I'm just trying to figure it out, and I remiss too much. And I'm like, you got to do it like me. And I realized that nobody's going to do it like I do. And so I had put too much pressure on them. Like, here's how I do it. And then one guy goes, you're good on video with this marketing shit. He goes, it frees up. I hate this crap. I'm like, oh my God, you're working a job you hate now. I don't want that. That sucks. And that's kind of where we decided that, okay, this is where the podcasting, so I read Crush It. Gary Vee. Now, granted, I read it a few years late. I read it like 2014, 2015, and I didn't really let it sink in. And then I read it again right around that time. I'm like, okay, like we're going to podcast. And I didn't know how to operate this shit. So I hired Chad because Chad knows how to do this shit. I don't. I couldn't even turn the thing on correctly. It sounded like I was screaming at an iPhone from 30 feet away. And then, great. But this is how we build our brand around us, and that our employees can have their own individual, personalities and do their thing that they do best, not try to do it like me, be the best them. And just start doing more social media, more things like that. Still get involved so that the sales still impact the stores, even though I don't have to physically fucking be there. And so that was it. So then Crushing It came out. And I'm like, okay, that's the second edition. It's more, I read that thing front to cover. I bought 8 copies for all my staff. I don't think any of them read it. But I was just excited. And, because I'm a huge Gary Vee guy.
Yeah, that's a good book.
It's a damn good book. And I was like, okay, here's how I put myself to scale.
Yep.
Because I couldn't figure out, I can't be everywhere. I have 6 kids. I don't want to miss their shit. And I've missed too much already, I think, in the first couple of years they grind. It happens, because you got, 2 little ones?
2 kids, man. My daughters are going to be, my oldest is going to be 5 here in like a week.
Already?
And
5 already?
One's going to be 3 on 4th of July. So
there you go.
She's a firecracker baby.
Yeah, 4th of July. Well, and that's like our oldest is getting married.
Yeah.
Our youngest, we're trying to potty train. So we've got a 20-year gap, and I don't want to miss any more of the baseball games or any of the first steps. And I'm like, but at the same point, I know I can't be completely gone. This isn't an absentee owner business. And unless you're a Subway or McDonald's, I don't think there's a truly absentee owner business. Like for us, Couryard Ink is awesome, but we buy because of you.
Yeah.
And so it's like one of those things where relationships, and I did this with the last podcast, that it's about relationships, man. Like,
absolutely.
People buy into you, you meet them, whatever. And I think as owners, we got to figure out when that right time is to step back, put some trust in people. And then how do we take our personality to scale? That's where social media comes in play. And like you said, customer referrals, that's everything. And so I was like, okay, how can I take a customer referral from one guy just telling his 3 neighbors to telling everyone who follows him on social media?
Yeah.
And thus born the ambassador program that we do. It's just, but it's awesome. And it's great for me that I start 2 new stores, one in Council Bluffs, and they're like, hey, we need T-shirts. I'm like, Brad, call Brad. They go, why? Just call Brad. Yeah. I go, why? Well, you designed all these things. They go, oh, yeah, no, I have no artistic ability at all. I just emailed Brad, hey, I want to make a shirt. And he goes, the last time you emailed me 2 logos, I'm like, that's badass. And we threw it on like 10 different things,
Yeah, try to make it that whole sales funnel, if you will. Try to make that as easy as possible, because there's a lot of different factors and things where you can be going back and forth, and I feel like that's one thing I try to do is just make that as smooth and efficient as I can. Something else you said that I think has become a common theme, that I asked one of my best customers this morning. He was in the shop and we were kind of going over some designs for some baseball jerseys or whatnot, and I asked him, like, what advice would you give a young entrepreneur? I'm going on this podcast today. And he said basically the same thing you just said, is that authenticity factor. Mm-hmm. He's like, I want to buy from someone who I like, who I respect, and I'm about what they're about. You go to Walmart or whatnot, sure, you can get a good price, but there's not that connection. There's not that human connection. And I think that human connection, though, is hard to duplicate every single sale you make.
Yeah,
but but I think that authenticity, people want to buy from someone that's real, that's in their community, that they like, who they want to support for a variety of those reasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's just last year during COVID. And we talked about it with COVID. Like, none of us knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
We were all scared shitless. You were scared, so was I. Like, none of us knew.
Like, man, there's this deadly virus going around, and no one's ever going to order T-shirts again. What should we do? Like, well, it turned out that wasn't exactly the case. That might be something for another podcast. Yeah. But that was definitely a scary time. And it's funny now, like, we're about like a year removed from that. Like, for me, at least last year, like when that happened, March, things basically just stopped in like mid-March, and then April was super slow. Which where we're at now, it's about end of April-ish. And then I think like by mid-May, things kind of picked back up. But it was a super scary and like uncertain time, because nobody knows. No one knows what's going on. Yeah, and I mean, I think fortunately, a good chunk of our business was like your sports teams, your events, your running races, all those type of anything event related, whatever sports related, Gandhi. But there still is lots of contractors. Your lawn carers are still mowing lawns. Your cement. Concrete people are still laying cement. You got your contractor. Everybody's remodeling their houses, so the contractors were ordering stuff. So I think it's super important. There's a quote I've heard. There's riches in the niches. Like, I think it's important to have your business be to have a very specific niche that you are an expert in. Yes. I think with us too, I think we have a good niche kind of within the gym, the nutrition crowd. I think a big part of that is like you guys and the referrals, but I think also like the type of apparel we print, like, done enough of it that we have a pretty good niche with, I feel like, the gym and the nutrition crowd also. So Definitely riches in the niches. I think it's important to be like specific, but it's also good to be able to have, like, I would say, various income streams. And I wouldn't say those are necessarily various income streams, but at least like if one thing's down, like, hey, at least the contractors are still doing something.
I had an old boss when I first got into commission sales and we were open. It was 100% commission. Here's your 2 states. You have to go drive around, find your business. I was like, holy shit. And he goes, don't let it overwhelm you. Don't try to be everybody's everything. Just be somebody's something. I'm like, you just shrunk the whole world down into a little thing. I'm like, okay, calm me down. And that's for us too. Like, we've got your vitamins, we've got your sports, we've got your weight loss. We kind of, we can't be everybody's everything.
And I think that's good though. Like, you got to know when to say no. Some people might not, or some customers or whatever, for whatever reason, some other businesses or customers, it just might not be a great fit. Or maybe there's someone else who would be a better fit. And that's okay.
And
that's totally okay.
I've honestly probably kicked in the last 11 years, I've probably kicked $50,000 to $100,000 of business to No Name Nutrition. They're up the street 24 blocks because they're going to carry your aluminum-free, dye-free deodorant, and I'm not going to, and it's just not my niche. And I said, hey, and I go, they're very nice. Here's their address. I've drawn a map to that store probably 1,700 times, and that's totally cool with me. It's another local business, local owners. I'm like, you guys are good shit. I have no problem doing that. I mean, I've even called. I called Gene. The GNC's called me. Hey, do you have this? Yeah, I'll send somebody because I know all those kids. And the only time I've ever had it like where somebody's just so is I had some. It was a few weeks ago that like. Why buy First Form? Because of Andy Frisella. I'm like, love his podcast, listen to it myself, but why for him? Well, he's all about the Maseratis and I want to own one. I go, are you fucking serious? I go, I'm a family man. I got 6 kids. I can't own a Maserati. Like we have a 9-passenger freaking Suburban. Like now I go, sorry, if that's your why, then cool. I can't be everybody's everything.
Yep.
That brought up another really good point. What's your why?
Yeah.
And you need to start with why. That's another really good business book I'd recommend. That Start with Why. Because that will help you answer a lot of questions along the way that have to do with important decisions you're making with, team members. How do you want to grow and what do you want your role to be? Really, first you need to start with why. Mm-hmm. Why do you do what you do? What do you want your day to look like? What do you want just your day-to-day and your business to look like?
And the first question we ask every franchisee when they prospect us, when they email in, we'll always meet with them in person. I think in person's great, and we'll have coffee or we'll fly wherever we got to go. And I'm like, I'll go, so why? Why us? Just want to know. We like what your family represents. We like what you believe. We want to have more freedom for our family, our kids, finances, whatever. We want to help people, whatever it be. If somebody goes, I just think it's a good second form of income for me and I'm letting some kid run it, it's going to be a no. Because you're going to fail. And I'm not interested in watching people fail, but you're 100% right. Like, what is your why?
And another thing going off that, like, I feel like, okay, you got to start with why. And then there's, you got your sales up. Then I feel like you kind of come in with that, trying to work on your business, not in it as much as possible. Now, granted, though, you still need to be connected to it, because if you get too disconnected, your people are going to know that, and then that can become a problem.
It does. That's where you breed competitors in your own house, where all of a sudden I'm starting one. I have all the relationships. I'm going to take and start my own spot. And I've had it happen to one of our guys in Lincoln when I own Lincoln. It's franchised now, but it was years ago. And I kind of knew he was looking. And so I just confronted him in the nicest way. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He goes, I'm buying into the new Nutri Shop that's open here in Lincoln. And I'm like, and I looked at him, I go, congratulations, man. That's awesome. Ownership's a badass thing. It's a lot and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, I thought you'd be mad. I go, I can't fault you for furthering your career, dude. Like, I wasn't as involved in the Lincoln community. This is prior to me doing podcasting or really, I posted on social media for fun. It was nothing to do with business at the time. It wasn't really in that mode yet. I hadn't read Crush It yet. So I was just posting shit for the sake of posting shit, gym selfies or whatever the hell. That was before it was cool. And I go, well, obviously you can't work here because you're about to start a business. And so I gave him 2 weeks paid vacation and he left to go do his thing, which turned out not working out for him. But and it was, why don't you just, I go, well, why create an enemy? How egotistical would I be to fault him for starting to further his career? And,
for sure.
And that's kind of where we just started making really good employees, partners in different businesses, because I don't want to lose them. Got to give them some sort of ownership in something.
For sure.
That's how the gym started, and that's how VHI started, and that's how we have other for franchisees. And, it's just a way to keep talent. And, this year's been really interesting. And I know, because you used to have a partner, right? And you bought him out? Or
things just sort of evolved, and it got to the point where we kind of both just needed our own shop. And we're still good friends. We're boys. I feel like, all things considered, knowing what I know now, I would do things differently for sure. There's no doubt about that. I think a lot of things have being more mature, being older, having kids, going through a pandemic. Like, I think all those things definitely have put things into perspective. So I mean, it's all, everyone's happy, it's all good. And
that's where we're at, because we're 11 years later, and this year I'm buying out 2 out of 3 of my original partners, investors I started with. Took 11 years to get here. One was a surprise, but hey, God love him, and it was all in good terms. And the other one was an opportunity, and I just said, okay, I've been working this hard, and it was fine in the beginning, because I needed the help with capital and expertise and having a line of credit, and now I'm like, I don't need it. And they made a hefty return on their investment. So, like, no harm, no foul. Everybody's in good spirits. But, that's where I said a lot of new business partners to get into stuff. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people lately. I'm like, little things that we don't pay attention to because we're not lawyers, like operating agreements, buyouts agreements. That shit means something. I said, so your first plan of success is plan in 5 or 10 years from now that you're going to be wildly successful. And one of you wants to leave, or one of them wants to be bought out. How do you plan that out? And they're like, I can't think about that. I go, you need to think about it right now. Because if somebody gets married, somebody gets divorced, somebody dies, like, how does that work? It sucks. Because when we're 20 something and we start a business, we're fucking indestructible. I'm 40. I mean, shit, I'm worried about my cholesterol and all bunch of crap I didn't give a shit about before. And it's just one of those things that you gotta, I had 2 friends of mine in the bodybuilding industry that died last 2 years under the age of 40 from heart attacks. And I'm like, holy shit. And so we just had this talk with our gym business partners, like, hey, we need to make sure we have this ironclad so we know what happens if something, God forbid, car doesn't know. You think all that crap makes a difference. And our buyout agreements weren't real clear, like on the Rexius one, like we had to go through them, and then you got to play blood-sucking lawyers. And thank God my brother is one, so I get hooked up. But it's just one of those little things you don't think about. So I think a lot of it's advice is plan for that success. What happens when people grow and change? Every 7 years, they say you're a whole new person.
I would agree with that, man, because life changes.
Kids change the game. Kids change the game. I mean, what you're willing to do at 25 to 28 when you don't have any kids.
Oh, no doubt.
Versus when you're 35 and have a couple. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, back in the 10 years ago, I could come into the shop late at night, and I mean, I still can now, but I don't want to now. I need to be home with my desire. And I think that's important. Going back to that thing, the thought of avoiding burnout and making sure you don't get to burnout. Like, I think it's really important to, like, when the day's over and you lock the door for the day, like, try not to even think about it. Because I think that is one thing with being a business owner. Because for me, I heard it. It'll drive me nuts, man. Like, you're thinking about something at the shop at night when you should be just chilling, or you're getting ready for bed or trying to sleep. It's like this one little thing that happened at the shop is on your mind. And I don't know, just trying to have that balance of, like, work and life
100% is
super important.
And with us being so social media driven, it's hard because people have 24/7 access to you. And I have that new entrepreneur blood in me where I'm like, it's money on the table.
Or you're just checking your phone and your email at night. Like, I'm not going to respond to that email till tomorrow morning anyway. Why am I looking at my phone even?
And that's the thing where we started doing it, is like with some of our staff, like, okay, listen, like this weekend, I need you on the Rexius, VHI, whatever. I need you on the social medias. I'm going to clock out for like Saturday, Sunday. I'm not going to look at a shit. I'm not going to share anything. Okay, cool. And then next weekend or 3 weekends, it's your turn. Then somebody else. And we just trade off that way. Otherwise, we'll get tagged on Rexius alone between Friday night and Sunday evening, probably 400 times. And if you don't share people's shit,
then they get mad.
The 20-year-olds who don't have kids, who don't have 80-hour work weeks, they get mad as if it's a slide against them. Almost like a positive into a negative. I'm like, okay, so I said we have to just make a plan of succession here. Who's in charge of what, when, so we know that it's on us, so we all don't feel the need. So like, just for my staff too. So we'll take our turn. Or I'm like, JD, take the weekend, man. It's your weekend. Like, just go chill. You know, like Shane even we got so busy. Like, I think Shane posted everything for Rexius until about 2018. He goes, I'm done. Just done. And now Shane doesn't go on social media pretty much ever. It was part of the deal.
It's a gift and a curse for sure, man.
Social media is business and memes. That's all I use it for. I don't read any of the comments hardly anymore unless because it's all negative. I hate it. So but that's memes are funny and business is good. And so we just take turns. We have a staff now, like, okay, it's your turn. Like people we trust. People that we trust. That way it's people are getting responded to that feel there's a sense of urgency. Like with the 24-hour gym,
right.
It's a sense of urgency. Yeah. Somebody's got pre-workout in their system. They're jacked up on 4 milligrams of caffeine. It's 1 o'clock in the morning and they can't get in the door. Yeah. Next thing you know, they're going to drive their car through the window or something because they're freaking, because I sold them a pre-workout that was too strong. And, I'm like, okay. And it is one of those things because I would be pissed if I showed up to the gym. I was amped up at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Nothing worse than being too geeked out off pre-workout formula.
Oh, I know. That happens to me often. I run on caffeine and sarcasm at this point. And so what 5-10 years from now, what's that look like for you and your business?
Man, that's a great question. And I'm not sure, to be totally honest with you. And here's why, though. I feel like so I had a pretty good plan in place, I felt like, before coronavirus hit. All right. Like, so December of 2019, I bought a new automatic press and I felt like, all right, I got 2 full-time guys in production. I had a part-time guy helping up front. I felt like I had the players in place and the good team members. Like, kind of felt like I had things like where I wanted it and to a point to where I could do more working on the business than in the business.
Sure.
Fast forward a couple months, I got this brand new press and then the pandemic hits. And I'm like, oh, crap. So I got to pay off this press, but no orders are coming in. Like, oh, crap, what am I going to do? And I unfortunately, at the time, I had to put everyone on furlough just to let things figure out what's going on here. Because I'm like, all right, no matter what happens, I got to make sure that Couryard Ink is still here come fall.
Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't as bad as it seemed like it was going to be at first. So a few months later, slowly started bringing people back. So I feel like, well, anyway, last year ended out fine. It was okay. It was obviously down comparatively speaking, but I feel like I cut, like sales were down a little bit, but I cut some expenses too to kind of like balance things out. Yeah. So, in the end, it was a decent year, but I feel like really about now, to start this year, I feel like, okay, so now it's 2021 now. This is really the first full year with the new automatic press. So I feel like I need to get through this year and kind of reaevaluate things.
And see how it works.
Because I do have more of a short-term goal, though, like for say the next 3 to 6 months. And it is, I feel like we have a really strong team in place between Eric and Jake running production. And I want to try to, well, like I said, my daughter's going to start kindergarten here in the fall. So it's kind of like the last summer before she goes to school. So if I can, I want to try to make my office hours 9 to 1, and then I'm out of the office the rest of the day. Maybe, hopefully we can go to the pool or, hang out with my kids a little bit, or I can, we have a really good shop management software now, so I can pretty much run front of the house. From anywhere now, which is awesome. That's another thing, man. If I'm looking back, there are 2 major things that I think are major regrets from starting the business, or things I wish I'd known or should have implemented earlier. The first one being, should have got an automatic press years ago. Looking back, knowing what I know now, I feel really dumb that we didn't get an automatic press years ago. And looking back on it, I remember at the time, well, I don't know if it'll fit in this space. It could have. You live, you learn, though, you know. And then the other thing was having shop management software. So we have an awesome system now. Are you familiar with Builder Trend? Yeah. They have a big building over there off 100 off I Street. Yeah. And anyway, so they specialize in software for construction people, if you will. Yeah. We have the same thing, but it's for screen printers. And that has honestly changed my life, running in front of the house. Because it used to be, going back to that thought of all right, how you're operating when you start versus how you're operating 5 years later when your business has tripled or whatever. So it used to be I'd send the quote via QuickBooks. I'd send the mock-up through the email. Pretty soon, and you're doing this for 20 different customers or orders at a time. Stuff's all over the place, and you can't tell where things are in the system. Well, now it's all in this system called Printavo, and I can send the quote through there. I send the mock-up through there. Stuff is automated. That's another huge thing. You need to automate as many points throughout whatever it is. Yes, things need to be automated. Like, for example, in my situation, I send that quote. When the customer approves the quote, system automatically sends a payment request. Yeah. That was a task we used to have to do. And just little various things like that. Now, when the order gets marked complete in the system, it sends a notification to the customer that their stuff's ready for pickup. So, like, those are small things, but if you're having to do that 50 times a week or whatever it is, like, you just saved a lot of time there.
We've done the same thing with our purchase orders, and it's been we took one of the smaller operations, and we started doing all of our purchase orders directly out of QuickBooks, and then we can actually see when they opened it. Everything's automated. It adjusts my pricing. They approve it. They send it back. We check it. It's all done. Invoices are sent. They're paid that way. I'm like, holy shit. And she told me to do this like 6 years ago. I'm like, no, don't fuck with my system. Like, I was having success. I was so scared to change. And that, what was it? Colin Powell said that once. More money is wasted on indecision than a wrong decision. But I was like, you don't understand, though. This is my system. And I was just so stuck in it. And now it's slowly but surely, I'm like, we're going to automate everything. As much as humanly possible. And it costs some money. And see, I'm such a cheap ass that I'm like, all I see is it costs $2,000. But I'm like, okay, but how much? But
time
now
are you saving?
And we're at the point now we're working 80-hour weeks and 6 kids and baseball and swimming lessons and driver's ed and all this other shit, where I'm like, okay, that's worth a lot more to me than paying it up front. And we've been automating things, and that's where Chad came in a couple of years ago, and he knew how busy I was. He goes, just let me do the production, let me do the video stuff. He comes with a lot of the marketing ideas. I was like, and at first I was like, okay, we'll try. And all of a sudden now, like, I haven't asked him to. You can ask him. I haven't had you edit anything ever. He's a pro. And so I'm very authentic. Okay. What I say is what I mean. I very rarely put my foot in my mouth in something in any sort of way. He hasn't had to edit a single podcast I've ever shot ever. He said, what do you think? It looks good. Would I change this? I'm like, sure. I don't know. Like,
leave it. That keeps it authentic.
Just keep it you. I mean, that's just it. And it's been so much fun that way,
that's awesome, man.
Well, that's for us. Like, COVID changed our entire plan structure, the way we were. And we decided that this last year, like, you know what? We had 98 W-2s between Rexius and Iron Heaven. She's scheduling all of them. I'm like, this sucks.
Well, it kind of comes back to the whole being able to kind of delegate some of those things where when you've been doing it and that's your baby, it's hard to let those things go. It's hard to trust it, but you also have to understand, like, okay, you know what? I'm going to let this go. There's probably going to be some screw-ups along the way. It's probably going to give me anxiety. But in the long run, so, like, letting go of the gym scheduling, I was like, all right, Steve, I need you to take this over. And it's still, like, I'm still checking it.
And it's funny. So Steve's a high school teacher. I mean, he manages all these students. He's one of the smartest people we know. And he goes, I think I got this. This is not like for us, it's a big deal. And then we ended up selling off Norfolk, which is our second location, to our manager. We sold Kearney to our manager. We'll probably sell Sioux City. I may even sell Bellevue just because I'm like, okay, we need to be able to be a little less locked down to be able to go out and do what is our time worth? Like, what is the best bang for our buck? And that's our ability to be with people at events and
to work on the business.
I
love that.
And that's honestly going to be the new mantra. You just give us a new mantra.
I love that.
One of my 1900 motivational posters will be that now because I've got them everywhere. But well, awesome, man. Well, I all I can say is thank you enough because honestly, it's been great. I mean, you've been so rock solid the last 10 years. We've been doing business with you, man.
Likewise, man. I love working with you guys, and I think that's something you guys have done an awesome job that I really respect. Just of the Rexius Nutrition, Iron Heaven, the whole conglomerate. I feel like you've really put your fingerprint on your business, and I feel like all the people from your different franchises who I talk to when they come print shirts, like I feel like they generally have the same kind of energy and the same, the same feel and the same vibe, like from Rexius Nutrition. Like I feel like you've done a really good job from the top down, and I feel like people really buy into what you're about.
I think it is.
It's easy to do. I feel like
we made the mistake, I think, twice. Where we franchised to the wrong person. It's not we're selective with it, but we're not greedy. Like if I don't open anymore, I'm good. We got good people.
Sometimes less is more, man.
It is. And the thing is, if they're all good people opening, I'm cool, open 100. But if I'd rather just have good people. It's our family legacy. It's our name. We went on a mission trip to Mexico like 4 years ago and built houses in Puerto Penasco, and I fell in love with it. I just I just like to volunteer. And it's not like, oh, pat me on the back. I just want to do something bigger for the communities, whatever, teach people. That's where the podcast comes in, just helping people basically not screw up the way that we both screwed up in the beginning, you know, and just that kind of shit. And that's, that stuff doesn't just mean it really but it feeds my soul. Yeah. You know what I mean? It gives me, watching these new entrepreneurs come in here, and we do a lot of consulting. And their excitement just gets me so jacked up, and I freaking love it. And watching these two guys, we had them on, they were on last week's episode, Contrell Smith and Brandon Kinney, who were former players in Nebraska, trying to start a youth athletic training conference from North Omaha, and they're turning it partly into a church. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, I'm helping. And they go, what do you charge for this? Nothing. This is badass. Like, I'm just excited to see it, you know? And it's just fun watching that, especially in our own community, you know? Like, there's a lot of people here that could use some help. And I told her, I'm like, all right, a few less shops. Yeah, we're giving up some profit. I said, but we'll gain in time. We'll help everyone in a bigger space. Because I told her, I'm like, what did I tell my dad? I go, he made fun of my couches. I got her couches for Christmas from Menards on 11% rebate. And he goes, what? He goes, you're doing pretty well for yourself. You could probably afford better couches. I go, I have 6 kids and 3 dogs. Yeah. It doesn't matter how nice it is. They'll fucking destroy it anyways. So I'm just not about that kind of shit, you know?
For sure. That brings up another thing that I think is important to talk about that doesn't get brought up enough, is just the topic of money. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The topic of money is like taboo, and people don't like to talk about it. Like, it's offensive. And I get, you know, it's offensive to ask somebody how much money do you make and whatnot. So, like, I feel like as an entrepreneur or a young business owner, like, I didn't really have a concept of money because, well, I didn't really have any when I started. Then, like, okay, a few years later, like, okay, business is picking up. You got some sales. Like, at what point am I making good money? Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't even know. Yeah. Like, and I think it's important to find, like you said, people you respect who have been there before you, who you need to find people you can talk about money with. Oh, yeah. Because otherwise you're not going to know how to manage it, or, you you know, like, there's a lot of important decisions to be made, and you need to, like, and people that match with your ideals. You know what I mean? Like, and it's one of those that I was like, when I first said, how much money do you want to make? I said, well, I have a little bit of money, and it wants some friends, and I'm broke, and I was so broke, and you know, that was we've been dealing with my brother and some financial planners, because it's just not my wheelhouse. I don't do stocks and shit. I played around with this last year just because it was pandemic, and I was like, Robinhood, I'm like, let's play with it. But other than that, that brought me. I'll get to that next. Okay, good. And I'm, you know, and I just not my thing. Where's your 401k? Shop. Yeah. Where's your IRA? The gym. And I just never got into a lot of. I put it into my business, and now it's like, okay, like, one, hang around people and talk to people you aspire to be around, that you aspire to have like-mindedness, and who's where you want to be in 10 years. Go get advice from that person, and don't take advice from people you would trade places with. I'm like, I heard that from a pastor buddy of mine. And I'm like, ooh, that's good. You know, so I just started asking, like, what would you do? Like, like here's my, you know, I told him, like, here's what my goals are. Like, I'm not taking any shit with me when I die. I'm not super concerned about that crap. I want to know what my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids say about me. Now, obviously, that's in the Spanish community. When we're in Spain, they talk about, they don't say for their kids, they say for their grandkids. It's a different mentality. And what kind of legacy they leave in the grandkids. It's nothing to do with their kids, because their parents already saved for their kids, and that's how they look at it. I like that. That kind of changes the entire, you're thinking multi-generational. And it was this guy, it's a really crazy accent, but he was just so impressive. And I was like, I go, where are you from? He's like, my family's from Spain. And he went through the whole thing. I go, the whole I never even thought of that. I'm like, okay, hopefully I can leave my kids a few bucks. You know, that's what in my head. I'm like, he goes, no, you think way past that. You take care of the generational, the family, your grandkids. I'm like, oh shit. I ain't having grandkids. Hopefully not for a while. Hopefully not for a while. But yeah, no, the Robinhood thing, I had GameStop and AMC, and they locked me out from selling it. So I'm still pissed. Still pissed. So I've started to get interested in, I've definitely since, I have a good buddy who owns a Window World franchise in Tennessee, and he's a business owner, a friend of mine from high school. We stay in touch, and he's someone I can talk business with and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, dude, like, the stock market crashed. I got in and did well. I'm like, okay, like, this is starting to make sense to me. Like, I had some stocks years ago, but I sold them when I bought my house. And it's like, I'm looking back, I'm like, all right, I should have been investing all along. And then it was kind of the same time the GameStop thing was going on. And it piqued my interest. And then I start looking into, like, the cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, and all that good stuff. The Ethereum. And well, let's put it this way. Like, as a young man, I had student loans. So I started my business, but I'm still paying back student loans. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, if I could go back in time and not pay back all these student loans and instead invest that money, knowing what I know now, like, man, I'd be doing pretty damn well. Yeah, a nice chunk there. But again, you live, you learn. And so, yeah, now I think if I was a young man, like, yeah, you need to be investing, whether that's stocks, whether that's Bitcoin, whether that's you need to make your money work for you.
Save half the money you're about to spend at the bar and throw it into an app. And now, and the thing is with technology, like back when I was graduating, like you didn't really have the access to it.
Yeah.
And now you do. I got 3 different apps on my phone that trade currency. And I learned my lesson. I'm an impatient person, so I need to, and it can be obsessive. You can sit and look at it all day long, which I did. I made enough money last year to help pay for this kitchen thing, her Pinterest wish list. I bought cruise line stocks. I'm like, well, they're down like 90%. But these old people aren't going to stop cruising. So I just bought them. And then they're not even open yet. I sold them. I bought the dip. I bought some oil stocks. I'm like, because nobody's driving anywhere. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
Just shit that makes sense to me. And if I started reading it, I'm like, this makes sense. I don't buy it. And so then I follow Elon Musk.
Yeah, man.
So I bought Dogecoin.
Yep.
Still pissed. Chad and I talked about this.
I would have bought some, but you can't buy it on Coinbase. I think you can only buy, or there's
now so I bought it on Robinhood.
That thing just spiked from like 5 cents to 30 cents.
I know. One day. I bought it at 3 cents.
Yeah, man.
I had 30,000 Dogecoins, sold it at 5 cents a week ago before it jumped to 40. Still pissed. But I talked to my dad. My dad's a big stock guy. He goes, you got to be patient.
Yeah.
Because you can't just, he goes, if you can't afford to keep it in there, don't put it in there in the first place.
Yeah.
And that was my thing. It's like, we're paying for a wedding for our daughter. I'm buying out 2 partners at the same time. I was like, I just want all my money so that I can just, I hate debt with an absolute passion.
Sure, man.
So I was like, I'm just going to pay off some shit. I got wedding dresses to pay for, Airbnbs to rent, and then boom. So I'm like, God damn it, Bitcoin. Yeah. So, eventually, like, who knows the crypto? And I'm still trying to understand crypto. I read the Crypto for Dummies. Yep. I feel like I know less than I did when I started. And it's just beyond me. I just don't, it's not my wheelhouse. So I'm trying to talk, my little brother's big into investing, but he's into like, Berkshire and shit like that. I'm like, I go, dude, I don't want to order 1/100th of a share of stock of like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I should have bought when Apple and Tesla split last year, and I would have made like 4 times my money. But then he goes, so that's it. He goes, next time, if you like Elon Musk so much, next time they do a stock split, he's a guy you believe in, buy the damn stock.
Here's what I would do if I was a young man, and I was like, right now, if I was myself at 24 years old when I started my business, I would have to have a serious talk with myself, and I'd say, all right, Brad, like, yeah, you can start this business, and that's cool. You might seriously want to consider moving to Austin, Texas, and taking a job for Tesla and convert half your salary to Bitcoin and reevaluate your situation in 2 years. Like, seriously.
Oh, yeah.
We were just down there, man. I got to tell you, like, the most delicious, life-changing brisket I've ever ate in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Franklin, speaking of, making your business like exclusive and a supply-demand type deal, Franklin's barbecue down there. All right, this like brisket is seriously life-changing. It is like the most delicious meat I have ever ate in my life. Like, it is that good. And it is that good because you got to order it a week in advance. It's that exclusive. Like, you can't, they run out of meat. Like, so you got to reserve your meat like a week in advance at this place. And it is so worth it. Like, at the time, I was like, this is crazy. Who orders brisket a week in advance? And then we got it. Man.
Now you know why.
Dude, that brisket is
Brad's going to be going to Austin every week.
I'm going to go back there specifically to eat that brisket.
Well, so we find that spots. Texas. I love Texas. Her and I decided like 4 years ago to take a little trip.
Yep.
I don't like big cities and crowds, so we went to Galveston, south of Houston. I'm like a little bit more.
Is that before you get to South Padre?
Yeah,
the tip of Texas down there.
It's up there, right south of Houston, and so I'm like, I'm a little more hippie area, a little more laid back. I'm cool. Get down there, and then it's like one of the original ice cream shops. I don't know what chain that was. Ben and Jerry's, one of the original ones ever. I'm like, this is a shithole. Rag. I go, well, it's just Ben and Jerry's, and then I got the ice cream. I go, you all do shit different here.
Yeah.
So every time we've gone back 3 times now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we get there. I'm like, feel like ice cream? She goes, it's 8 a.m. I'm like, 8:30. You're right. Wait for 8:30. We'll go right when they open. And that's where you find it, man. That's the little spot you don't know about
for sure, man.
But well,
something else I would add to that, man, is like, I think it takes a special kind of, you got to be willing to take your lumps as an entrepreneur for sure. Like there's going to be highs and lows. You're going to have bad days. Like, it can be really great. And I think you can build your business to be what you want it to be, and make your, just your day to day look how you want it. But it's not super duper easy. But like you might want to honestly, like if I was a young man, I'd be like, you know what? You might honestly want to consider being an electrician. Oh no! Like seriously, you can make really good money and have a stress-free life. What do you really want out of your life?
That's just it. We've had that conversation with quite a few guys who've come in who've worked for me part time. Yeah. One was going through to be an electrician. Yeah. And we talked. I'm like, I go, listen. I go, let's have a conversation. Right. I go, one of the guys I know who makes the most money on this planet is a fucking electrician. Yeah. I said, and I go, my other guy who's a plumber. I mean, he works whatever he wants. He charges whatever he wants. Yeah. And that's. I go, there's a lot of ways to make money. Absolutely. What is your goal? Like if it feeds your paycheck well enough that you're good and your soul, you win. Yeah. But if it's not, let's reevaluate some shit. Like if somebody who's so into like a side, like a hobby, and you need money to support, okay, well, it's gonna be hard to do both. Yeah. And we had talk with a buddy of mine, who's an electrician, a couple of years ago, where he had one crew, was doing well. He goes, I'm just trying to figure out if I want to expand. I go, here's the thing: you have control of this. You know where your business is. You're making good money. Mm-hmm. You've got enough business to keep this crew busy. I said, when you add on a second one, now it's the whole drive all over again to get enough customers to keep, because agreeing to make sure that they have a salary to feed their families is a huge responsibility. And what they're going to do, he goes, I'm going to stay right where I'm at. Well, that lasted like a year. And then he goes, no, I'm going to do it. And boom. And I found out that he's basically doing all the build outs for JP Morgan everywhere. I mean, he's multiplied. Now he's working a shitload. Yeah. I said, but you're at the point now where you've got such a solid crew that you can start to step out a little bit. Yeah. You can't, there's a limit to what we can handle. Yeah. And we have to know when we've hit the limit. And I got sick a couple of years ago, like bad, because it was literally from pure exhaustion. Yeah. She took away, we got to the hospital, we've done that. And I'm like, what is it? They go, stress. Yeah. My white blood cell count bottomed out. And they're like, it could be cancer and all these other things. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. They literally, okay, you need to relax. I'm like, I am relaxed. Like you're looking at, I'm on my phone answering emails while I'm in the ER. I'm like, but they got to get, oh shit, okay. Yeah, it's just one of those. Might be something to that. I'm my own worst enemy. Yeah. And so like doing things that forcibly allow us. So I told her, like, they're like, you need to get massages. I'm like, okay, well, that takes too much fucking time. Yeah. And it's expensive. Yeah. And so I'm like, but she's right. She's been on my ass for a year. Yeah. And I know the massage people, they're great. But then she goes, all right, like once every 2 months to get a massage. Until then, let's buy a massage chair. I can multitask while I do that. Okay, I agree to this. Just a little shit. I'm like, okay, let's buy a 1-person or 2-person like infrared sauna at home. Red light's good for the skin. Yeah. I won't leave early enough to go. I'm like, okay, we'll do little things to start taking care of myself.
Self-care, man. That self-care is super important.
It is. It is. And I find myself getting, down or whatever, or just getting to my anxiety. I'm an anxious person. So I've been listening to other CEOs podcasts, the Real AF from Andy Frisella, MF CEO project, a lot of Gary Vee, and I just nonstop. I'm working on my house. Yeah. It's not hardly music, because my kids don't like my music. So they don't understand the classics. So I listen to podcasts all day long. Yeah. Basically, it's constant motivation just coming at your face. And I'm like, it's like surrounding myself with positivity as many hours a day as humanly possible, which I think is huge. Because for sure, man. Sometimes you can feel like you're alone on an island as an entrepreneur, that you don't got anybody. And that's where it's huge to have other entrepreneurs you can call on. Yeah. My buddy Mike Giovanni owns Touch and Tan. And I'm like, hey, I'll ask him to occasionally come and like grade my business, because he will not be nice. Yeah. He'll be 1,000% honest. He'd be like, this looks like shit. You need to do this. You need more of that. And he was the one that was like 4 or 5 years ago. He goes, he came in, we had a meeting, went and had the cigars at the, what was that place? Safari. He goes, all right, man, business looks good. He goes, you need like 10 times as much swag. You got a boy, right? I go, I do. He goes, you're missing the boat. He goes, it's advertising, it's marketing, it's money. He goes, you need to like times 10.
That guy knows what's up.
Right? So I'm like, all right, here we go.
Just don't let him pick the swag.
I'm not allowed to do it.
No.
That's like, I have no style. So that's my wife enters and she gets the stuff. So, well, thank you so much for coming in, man.
Sure,
we appreciate it.
It's a pleasure to be here. Another thing, one more thought I had that I want to like throw on top of it, because there's so many layers, and it's like, where are you and what stage of your own journey are you at? A thing that also helped me was profit first. Going back to the topic of money, like, okay, so traditionally, you know, your sales minus your expenses, and then whatever's left at the end, that's your profit. Whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And it basically flips that script to where you take your profit out at the start of the month. Now, granted, you have to have a little bit of a nest egg built up to start with, but I think what it does for you, and it's a great book. I think it's by Mike McCallowitz. It's a really good book that I feel like helps you be better with your finances and manage your money better, because it gives you that, all right, well, what do I want to make? What do I expect to make? And okay, I'm going to pay myself that at the start. And then the other things fall into place. So I think what naturally happens is you either hustle a little bit harder to make your final, you know, number you need so that you can pay yourself that profit, or you're going to cut expenses where you need to cut expenses. And I think it does. I think it does a good job of helping you focus on that bottom part of your balance sheet more than the top. Which is kind of just, it's kind of a different way of thinking, and it's not traditional at all, but I feel like you got to sort of take a different approach to things. And I don't know, that thought has helped me manage. You're being conscious of your expenses, but you're
the last one to get fed.
Right.
And you're the top of the food. I mean, that's, you know, I hope everybody that's listening to this understands, like, he's already dropped like 3 or 4 books. I've dropped books that this is something, even though people have been in business for 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, we're constantly working on our craft. We're constantly finding better ways to do that as a person and as a boss, as an owner.
For sure.
It's never like, you don't just get to a point in 5 years where we're like, I'm good.
I
know everything I know. Learning. Always got to continue to improve.
And even I feel like at different points in your journey, those books are going to resonate a little differently. You know, like if I read that book a few years ago, if I read it again, like now, something else would probably stick out to me based on my situation.
It took me 2 years later reading it, where I'm like, I done missed 80% of the shit I needed to read. I thought it was just a cool book. And then I'm like, I need to be taking fucking notes. And so when I read it, the Crushing It came out, I'm taking notes. I am like highlighting the fuck out of the book. I'm like, all this stuff. And it was right around the same time that we were just starting the podcast. And I was like, oh, this is golden. Like, this is going to happen. And just everything's with purpose. Like, we have a plan. I can't just sit around randomly, we're going to do a sale Tuesday. Like, I had to plan it all out. And that was all because of books that like, I'm not egotistical enough to think I know it all. I don't know shit. I'm just, you know, I'm finding other people's wheelhouse. It's, you know, and Steve Jobs always said that, you know, that basically he had a plan. They're going to deviate from his plan, but he's going to take advice from people he thought they could challenge him. And I love that kind of shit.
You know, and on that thought too, I've noticed, you know, as the owners, you know, I wear all the hats or whatever. At some point, like, somebody else can do something better than you. Because I'm wearing too many hats. Like, if I step out of the office and let Eric talk to the customer, he might actually give them better customer service than me. Because I got too much going on, and maybe in that moment, you know.
And that's where Shane decided to leave the store and go to the warehouse. And at first I was like, you're going to hate it. You're going to this. Like, I was totally against it. And then I saw why. He knew he couldn't give service to our franchisees and ship them the orders in the way they wanted to, and give 100% of his attention to the customer, because as the customer's there, he's thinking about all the shit he has to do. And people can tell you're not being authentic. That you're just trying to get him through so you can go back to your other shit. And so when I'm in the store, like for those 2 days, like I'm all about customers. I will spend an hour talking to one dude over buying a $5 multivitamin. That's my world when I'm there. And we've had that with managers before, where I told them, I go, I know you want to move up. Focus on what's in front of your face. And that's hard as CEOs, because we do have 60 things going on. And so, like, and I let other people, I'm like, it's your show. I won't fully keep texting me. I'm like, hey, totally cool to help you out. Do me a solid. Do the job right now that I'm paying you to do at 110% for me. And I said, when you clock out at 4, come over to the house, we'll crack a beer. We'll figure out what's fucking going on. Okay, I go, just give me 110%. If I wanted to be there right now, I would absolutely be there. He's like, cool, that's solid. I mean, I had to put it in the nicest way possible. If I wanted to be there, I'd be there. I'm trusting you to be there. I'm paying you for a job well done. Do the job well done. And it's just awesome. So if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way? With website, emails?
Couryard Ink is the website, couryardink.com. You can email me directly, brad@couryardink.com, ink with a K. Or call the shop, 402-885-8787.
Awesome, man. I'm so jacked. I've been actually talking about having you on this show for like a year and a half. So Chad finally gets to meet the infamous Brad. I'm so honored. This was an awesome episode, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, brother.
You bet.
Thanks.